Please welcome to the stage head of Claude Code of Anthropic, Boris Cherny, and creator of Bun at Anthropic, Jared Sumner.
Hello. All right, so this is a developer conference. We're going to be doing a little bit of talking, but mostly we're just going to be like coding. So this is for the developers in the room.
I'm going to start by talking a little bit about how Bun uses Claude Code to build and maintain Bun, and also kind of how our setup works. And because it's kind of a slightly more advanced setup than what's common today. But first, I'm going to get a few agents running to just fix some GitHub issues.
This is classic Jared doing work during a talk.
So in Bun's repo, every time somebody submits an issue, we have a Claude bot automatically run and try to reproduce the issue. So you can see this person has this side effects, and this is like one of the most recent issues. And we can see that RoboBun, which is our bot, went and managed to reproduce the issue and submitted a PR automatically. And this PR is like, it has, all these PRs always have tests. It's one of the actual hard requirements before it can submit a PR. And so the challenge here is like, does this code look correct? And one of the things we do to check that is, does the test fail in the previous version of Bun and pass in this debug branch? And the bot actually can't submit a PR without that being the case.
And so this is, just to make sure I understand, so this is like every single issue that goes up in the Bun issue tracker, you have RoboBun automatically try to reproduce it before anyone looks at it.
Yeah, and this saves a lot of time because we have so many open GitHub issues. It really moves the challenge from just fixing and debugging the issue to, is this the right thing to merge? Like, is this the right fix?
How good is it? Is this doing like 100% of yours? Is it like 10%?
We can go to the insights and go to contributors, and then if we go last 3 months, and this is specifically to main, we can see that RoboBun is now a bigger contributor to Bun than I am. And that's with merging not all of its PRs for sure. You can see we have a lot of PRs open right now. The challenge is really, how do we know, can we merge the PR? And that's the test. And then the other thing that's really interesting about this is we have automatic code review bots that run, and then they're going back and forth. So like CodeRabbit leaves a comment, and then RoboBun leaves a comment, and then they go back and forth, and CodeRabbit did the.
I love this.
And it also marks the comments as resolved when it's done. And you can see they actually went a lot. Like, there's a lot of back and forth here. There's like 30 comments or something.
And so you're using like a combination of agents. So this is like code review, this is like Claude code review, and then also CodeRabbit, and like you're using them together.
Yeah, and I think basically like CodeRabbit is good for like kind of stylistic issues and things that are like, make sure that it follows the Claude MD. And then the Claude code review is really good at, here's this really subtle edge case that would have taken me like 30 minutes of reading all the code and having all the context to like figure out. And so it's really good at surfacing bugs that you need the full context to really understand. And I think basically it's really hard to actually have all this automation without having code review that is in the loop with Claude. They're replying, or replying is like very performative, but like fixing. And that's also a big part of like what used to take so much time when why PRs would take so much time to merge is because you'd have to like check out the branch locally, fix a lint error, then run the linter locally, then push it back up. And there's all this switching cost that's constantly there. And so so I think this is like an especially good use case for LLMs, because otherwise, like, it just takes up so much time to ship.
And I guess like especially for the Bun code base, because it's like it's systems code. It's it's very easy to repro an issue and then see if the issue is fixed, because this is kind of back to what we were talking about before with like this kind of verification loop. It's all systems code, so it's really like a test case on a particular architecture, and you can essentially like repro or verify anything.
Yeah, that's one thing that makes it easier in Bun's code base is because it's a CLI tool, because we don't need to run a browser to test things, but you can also just like have something set up to like take a screenshot or record a video or those sorts of things. In Bun's case, we don't need that, at least not yet. There's a couple of things we could do that for, like we have some front end stuff that would be nice. But yeah, I think this is like the direction that I think is really interesting, is because it saves so much time. And this is something that like, this is specifically for Bun, but the more generalizable thing, because most products are not open source, is like, instead of an issue, maybe the starting point is like a customer support ticket. So like you could imagine an automatically passing customer support tickets to a Claude bot to then go and try to reproduce the issue and then submit a PR, and then having code review go back and forth. And that's where I think for a lot of companies, it becomes a lot more impactful, because it just saves so much developer time.
We should think of some kind of name for this pattern. It's like adversarial code review or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do think like there's also a few other things about this that's like if you just do this, then it doesn't quite work. The very first step you need is to like make sure the development environment is set up. Like I think this has been talked about before, but like CloudMD is very important, because otherwise it's going to just submit PRs that don't quite make sense for you to merge. So like we very much emphasize in Bun's code base that it runs this special command to do the build, and this both builds and runs the command, so it like forwards the arguments. Because that's also one confusing thing is like because Bun has to be compiled, you want to make sure that it's running the actual changes and not like a debug build that's like stale. We also go into a lot of detail about how to run tests, how to write tests, where to put the test, and a lot of like, here's all the issues that we've run into previously. Like basically the pattern here is like every time that you find yourself repeating something, it should probably go in CloudMD. Because the question now is like, how do you make it maintainable to have lots of Claudes running all the time? And to do that, it needs to be written down. It needs to be documented. So like a really small detail is like, we check we have it like to make sure that Claude sees the error message. We make it print the error message before the like less informative conditions.
So this is sort of like you have Claude write a test, and then the test is bad or something about it doesn't work, and then you see this kind of repeated like once or twice, and then you just tell Claude, add it to the CloudMD, so that every time in the future when you write a test, you do it correctly the first time.
Yeah.
So this is like compound engineering. It's kind of this.
And then also it's helpful to like give an overview of where all the folders are, like how the code is laid out, and like about dependencies. Another thing I think is interesting is like making sure that it can read your CI errors and like build logs. Like you want to set up the agent to be able to read the code, like to do the full loop of like writing the code, testing the code works, checking CI, monitoring CI, and reading all the errors. So that way, by the time it gets to a person, everything is like set up. Like the ideal is that you read the code and you have very clear indications that you can be high confidence to merge it. And the only way for that to be true is if it is set up for success.
It's interesting. I remember when we first met, you were talking about like your vision of like everyone being able to run hundreds of agents in parallel and how that would work. And I feel like I didn't really get it at the time, although now like every night I'm running like hundreds of agents every single night. And I feel like now I'm finally there, but this is a thing that you've been thinking about for a long time. So it feels like this is sort of like the setup in order to be able to kind of scale up agents way more. Like you need the self-verification so that agents can run autonomously.
Yeah, like this has gone through many iterations in Bun's code base. We previously just had a Discord bot where I could just mention the bot and it would spin up a container. It didn't have like the CI stuff. It didn't have the code review stuff. And it's so much better now, especially with like Opus 4.7. All this stuff is getting so much better. Oh yeah, we can also check on how it's going. It looks like it created a PR, the first one, and it wrote tests.
So maybe while we look at this, I'm curious for like just to get a show of hands for people in the room. Like as people think about their development process, raise your hand if it looks something like this, where you have like a bunch of terminal windows or desktop tabs and you're kind of pasting in issues. Okay, so that's like maybe half of people. And then what if it looks like RoboBun or something more like that, where it's like closing the loop a little more? It's like the next level of abstraction. Starting to get there? Yeah. I think it's like, it's not surprising because I think model capabilities are just getting there. Like I think 4.7 is the first model where it's really felt like it's able to do this. And in the past, maybe you could do it with like a bunch of scaffolding. Like you just throw a bunch of tokens at it and it can kind of work, but now it's like efficient enough. You can actually do this day to day.
Yeah. Let's see. So the first PR is there. Let's see if it did any others. Okay, it did 2 PRs. This looks very plausible.
It's cool. And this like this before or after, is this like do you tell it to do that or is...
Sometimes it does it. It's pretty good about knowing like when it should do that, like when it's like a string formatting thing. It also kept like Bun's style of the label, which is good because Node's style is slightly different. Let's see, does this change look good? Yeah, mostly what I'm thinking right now is it did this. This is good because like you don't want to write 1 byte at a time. You want to write in chunks, and then it used saturation but I don't like that. Or like it shouldn't have to do that.
Does anyone here actually know Zig? So, sort of.
But yeah,
this is how I feel looking at this code.
and you can see it followed the patterns from the CloudMD await using, and then that pattern of reading all the resolving all the promises at the same time.
And so, like, what's your workflow? Like, when you see something like this, are you usually going in and like commenting, or are you just going to wait for like code review to come in and drop a comment?
Usually, it depends on how complicated it is. In this case, I'll wait for, like, this one is actually pretty simple. I feel pretty high confidence that if the test pass, then I would probably merge this. But I still would wait for the code review for at least for the Cloud code review one to run, just in case. Because what I really like about that is it will find things that from that aren't in the diff, that are like from tracing the control flow, which is what you want when it's like a human reviewing it, is like somebody who has a lot of context who can think, what are all the edge cases that this might run into? And the signal to noise ratio is pretty good. It's something maybe like 10% of the time it's wrong. Like that's, and for like how that used to be, like with other code review products that we've tried, it was like basically you had to ignore most of what it said.
It's pretty cool. How long has something like this worked? Is it like a latest model thing, or like have you had like RoboBun or this kind of like automated repro, automated fixing, like this whole pipeline? Like how long has that been actually possible?
We can probably like see this in a chart somewhere. That's kind of a lot of commits, but I think that's that might not be on main. That might be the Rust thing.
Yeah, I heard Bun is going to be written in Rust soon. Is that?
I don't know. Or I just have a Claude running, and we'll see what happens. But you can see like the volume of commits there. It's like kind of lower, and then it's definitely gotten up a lot, and then it's gone up a lot. Now really the bottleneck is like, do I feel good about merging this? Am I confident that its changes are correct? And that's new, because it used to be like the code wasn't good enough.
What do you think? What do you think is left? What's it going to take before? Well, like, is there like a missing tool or like a missing model capability or model version or something for you to kind of feel like RoboBun can fully close the loop? Issue comes in and then like fix goes out automatically.
I think it needs a little bit more. It takes a lot of time to verify the changes are correct. This was kind of already true, like when it's a person pushing up a PR. But I think the challenge is like, how do we make sure to communicate sufficient proof that the changes are correct, or making it easier to like roll back things. I think those are kind of the two directions. But I think like for the majority of like simple issues, we should probably be pressing merge a lot more. And the bottleneck now is actually like CI and like making sure that in having like fully running the code, like the making sure all the test stuff works. But I think it's like basically there for like, and the large projects are still non-trivial, but also I've been doing some pretty large PRs lately with Claude, mostly not as much with RoboBun, but with like Claude Code. We recently added support for a built-in image processing library to Bun. I could probably pull up the PR. And that was Claude. And also we did a bunch of follow-up PRs too.
Yeah, it's like it's interesting because I think like when I look at different people using Claude Code, everyone is like at a kind of different level of like sophistication or kind of like adoption of this. And I think for me the hardest thing is the model changes very often, so I have to like constantly retune and kind of recalibrate to what it can do. And like as an engineer, it's hard because it's like a very weird technology. It's like the first technology I've used that's like that. And I sort of feel like this is actually the way that you do it is ahead of how the Claude Code team does it for Claude Code itself. And to me, like that like the way the Claude Code team does it is actually very automated, but this is like even further ahead. This is like almost like full liftoff, like fully closed loop.
Like in the last 2 weeks, we've added an HTTP3 server to Bun. There's a PR for an HTTP2 server. There's fetch support for HTTP3 and HTTP2. There's this image processing API. There's the ongoing Rust rewrite, which may not ship. That's like the most ambitious one I've done so far. And done is too strong of a word because it's very much not done.
And so even something like this, like this is like a benchmark. So Claude ran this benchmark for you.
Yeah, Claude ran this benchmark. I gave it like this ran in like a separate like on like a Linux box. Yeah, and I was like, make it faster than Sharp, and that's basically what it did. I gave it like a few ideas, like, oh, you could try like read this code in JavaScript core to like figure out how to like avoid cloning the typed array when it's not strictly necessary. But like it then went and did it and figured it out. And like yeah, it's pretty crazy honestly, because it was none of this would have worked several months ago.
Yeah, I feel like within Anthropic, like within an AI lab, you call this kind of thing hill climbing, and this is this idea that like if you give the model some sort of metric and then you give it a way to verify its result, you can just make it iterate and keep going until it hits that metric. And this is something like 4.7 I think is uniquely good at, and I think it's something really underutilized because I think it's the first model that's actually very good at that. And if you just give it a target, you give it a way to like improve the performance, and you give it a way to measure, it'll just like keep going until it's done if you let it go in auto mode.
Yeah, and we can also see like this is another case where like the code review comments was really, really helpful because like there was like in this PR, there's like 100 comments or something. And it's just going and fixing everything. Like it goes on for a while.
And in the meantime, you're just working on something else.
Yeah, this was not like the thing I was 100% focused on. I was maybe like 10% focused on this. I was doing like 5 things at once. And this definitely wasn't possible like 6 months ago. 3 months ago, like this is like very recent that this is doable.
Okay. So how are our sessions doing?
Yeah, so we have one PR there. There's almost another PR coming up, it looks like pretty soon. This one should be the trickiest one. It mostly looks good though, it looks plausible based on these changes. I wouldn't exactly do it this way, but I think we need like a better, more optimized way to do this because that's a lot of checks.
And looking at your setup here, so you mostly use CLI,
Yeah.
and do you always use auto mode for permissions?
Yeah, and then before that I used dangerously skip permissions.
No, you guys, it can delete stuff if you do that. Auto mode is better.
I think I'm not supposed to recommend that. But I think it's just not fun to wait for Claude to like press approve because then you just like go off and do something else and then it's just been sitting there. So that's why auto mode is really good because it's actually like a real way to fix that instead of just like trusting.
And I also noticed like the input, like the little composer, it's stuck to the bottom of the screen, so you're using no flicker mode.
Yeah, I'm using no flicker. Honestly, I think we should just like make that the default because it's so much better. Like you can see I can scroll really fast and like you could scroll fast before, but like sometimes there would be a flicker and now there's not.
Have folks tried no flicker mode for CLI? Yeah, a few people? Yeah. So it's like, we launched it on April Fools, so you can think, in hindsight it came across as a joke a little bit, but if you actually do quad code no flicker equals 1, quad, so just like set that environment variable, we totally rewrote the renderer that's running in the CLI. So it's using virtualized scrolling, virtualized selection. And so what this means is like constant memory usage, constant CPU usage, and also some nice stuff. Like if Jared types, he can actually like click around the composer. And so you can actually click and mouse events work, which is pretty crazy for a terminal.
So I'm just also having it monitor the PR. And you can see it ran some commands, and then it's going to go to sleep for 20 minutes and wake back up. 20 minutes is probably a little bit too long, but it's okay. Oops.
And is that like using like a loop or something?
I think so. Yeah, and then it's, let's see, how else is it doing? And then the other ones are still, apparently it fixed an extra bug as well.
Okay, so it's been, what? It's been like 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, and we got how many PRs have we gotten? 2?
3 PRs?
3 PRs? That's not bad.
Yeah, and I think we'll get a 4th one once it finishes running the tests.
And then in the meantime, RoboBun is still running and kind of like generating even more PRs.
Yeah, every time somebody submits an issue, it tries to reproduce it.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the way Claude Code makes you think is every time there's a new bottleneck, you have to kind of automate that bottleneck, and then there's always some other bottleneck after, and you kind of move on to that. And like it started like writing code was the bottleneck, and now it's no longer the bottleneck. And then like verification and running tests, that was like the bottleneck, and it's no longer the bottleneck. And now there's like a deeper layer of verification. Maybe that's it. What do you think are the bottlenecks remaining?
It's definitely this deeper layer of verification. I feel like the bottleneck after that's going to be like planning, like what should we do and what should we not do, and what is the right way to fix this. And like ideally, Claude would be smart enough, or like we could trust Claude enough to merge the PRs by itself. And I think like in certain projects, you could probably do that and just have that be automatic completely. I think Bun is not yet, or like it's not yet there for Claude, or sorry, for Bun. But I think it'd be really cool if like we had the tooling for us to feel confident enough to do that.
So like right now, RoboBun, it doesn't like build features. It doesn't do like feature requests yet.
That's true. Yeah, it doesn't do feature requests, but we do also use it sometimes. So we can also mention it in either Discord or Slack, and it will like try to implement the feature. So sometimes when people are like, "Hey, Bun is missing this thing," then I just mention the bot, and maybe like an hour later, there's a PR. A bunch of times somebody's like tweeted at me something like, "This, can you fix this bug or whatever?" And that's basically what I do. And then I reply with a link to the PR.
Should we add a RoboBun account on Twitter?
And I think it can do feature requests, but I'm hesitant for it to implement literally everything anybody asks for in a GitHub issue, because that's kind of a lot.
Because in some ways, it's kind of crazy to put something like an image processing library inside a bun. But like we talk about engineering taste, and there's like an element of taste that goes into that. Like you felt like that's a good idea, and like we're not sure yet if Claude is at the point where it would also think this is a good idea. But at some point in the future, it'll get there. Maybe it's starting to get there.
And I do think that like PRs become suggestions. Like having like not merging PRs used to be like you feel bad if you don't merge like a coworker's PR because like they put work into that. But you don't have to feel bad when it's like Claude. So like if the PR is wrong or for whatever reason, then you can just not merge it. And but it does mean that like the bar for what you merge is like should it be there? Because I think there's also a difference with when it's like people. Because with people you don't want people to feel bad about their like lost work. So sort of in some ways it does actually end up raising the bar for what you decide to merge.
Yeah, it's interesting how like as the bottlenecks move, the dynamics change a little bit. It's sort of like having to trust each other, having to trust people on the team. This kind of changes a little bit. Now it's a little bit more about like, do we have the right automation, and like, do we trust the automation, like as a group?
Yeah.
So I think we're almost at time. Is there any like maybe one last thing we wanna show people, or we can kind of check in on kind of like the progress that we've made?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's still going onto that fourth PR, and it's going back and forth, like found a bug and then fixed a bug. Looks like it's about to submit the PR now.
Okay, let's wait for this one. Love to have one more. This is like the cool thing about auto mode. It's like in auto mode, I can let like Claude runs like for hours and hours at a time. Like I run it almost every night. I'll just have a bunch of Claudes running in auto mode. And it's like before this, it just didn't work because it always got stuck at some kind of permission request. And that was crazy. Like this entire thing was one prompt. And that just ran for 30 minutes.
Yeah, this is all I said.
Okay, so it's pushing it.
It's about to submit the PR. That sounds like the right fix too. This has been an issue that's been open for a long time.
Okay. And we got a PR.
Yeah, we can go into this issue and we can see how many upvotes it has. 20.
Yeah.
It's kind of a lot.
Cool. Maybe we can pause there. But to me, this is just like such a cool vision of where engineering is going, I think, for everyone in this room. And we're going to see this first. We're going to have to figure it out first, and then everyone else is going to have to figure this out. So, like we were talking about this morning, just excited to be on this journey together. And like you can see, we haven't figured everything out yet. But I think like the mode that we're in is just constantly experimenting, constantly trying to see what the next bottleneck is so we can solve it.
It's very exciting. This is so cool. Yeah, like this stuff works.
Cool. All right.
Should I like?
Yeah, you can leave it.